В Советском Союзе мы стараемся сделать все, чтобы годы детства были здоровыми и счастливыми. Мы создали и продолжаем создавать, строить тысячи и тысячи светлых, удобных детских.
Well, over the next few years, the Scottish Government is going to double the provision of state-funded early years education and childcare. Now, to support that, we have to invest a lot more money, expand the physical facilities for childcare.
There we have Leonid Brezhnev, former president of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and Nicola Sturgeon, who is the current First Minister of Scotland. Now, you may say, oh, it's just a coincidence they just happen to be talking about the same thing. Lots of governments build nurseries, don't they? Well, let's hear a few comments from a few communists. Let's start with Lenin. The construction of a socialist society will commence only when we, having achieved the complete equality of women, take up our new work together with women who have been emancipated from petty, stultifying, unproductive work. It means being at home looking after your own kids. We are establishing model institutions, dining rooms and creches, which will liberate women from housework. Okay, Stalin, what did he have to say? Woman continues to be a domestic slave because petty housework crushes, strangles, stultifies and degrades her, chains her to the kitchen and to the nursery and wastes her labour on barbarously unproductive, petty, nerve-wracking, stultifying and crushing drudgery, bringing up the next generation of children. Public dining rooms, creches and kindergartens are the answer to this problem. Right, how about Frederick Engels? What does he have to say? With the transfer of the means of production into common ownership, the single family ceases to be the economic unit of society. Private housekeeping is transformed into a social industry. The care and education of the children becomes a public affair. Society looks after all children alike. So let's compare that ideology with the SNPs. We've got 3 points to compare. Point number one, they want women out at work, not at home, looking after their own children. Liberated, they call it. Tick, that's absolutely the SNP's philosophy, and the Conservatives and all the other parties in the Scottish Parliament as well. Right, number two, children are to be increasingly looked after by the state wherever possible. Tick, the SNP is keen on more nurseries, before school clubs, after school clubs, holiday clubs, you name it, and they're now looking at them being fed directly by the state as well. Right, number three, it's all about equality. If you're going to treat everyone the same, well, you can't have those diverse parents looking after the children. The state needs to take over. Tick. That's what the SNP thinks as well. I mean, here's a tweet from a professor of gender studies or something or other at a university in Scotland. She says, education is equalised by taking all children away from parents. And that's basically underlying the SNP's philosophy. So now I'm going to move on to the issue of free school meals. Let's hear John Swinney in full flow at the SNP's recent conference.
Right now, all P1 to P3 pupils are entitled to free school lunches. Given what I fear we are facing from the Tories, that is not good enough. We will not leave a child at the mercy of a Tory Chancellor just because they are in P4, P5, P6 or P7.
So students at high school, they can be left to the mercies of a Tory Chancellor. They don't really matter. But is this really about saving children from hunger? Does it really look that way? What's more important to the Scottish Government? Giving away bags of free books to primary schools or staving off hunger for secondary school pupils? Well, it seems like so far giving away free bags of books, etc. to primary school pupils. I mean, does anyone really buy this?
If elected next May, from 2022, we will extend universal free school lunches to all primary school pupils P1 to P7.
So free meals expanded to families who can already afford to pay for them. They're not on any sort of benefits. Now, how Tory austerity is going to stop these people affording to feed their children in the future is unclear. So how this does anything to tackle poverty is similarly opaque.
A child arriving at school hungry cannot learn as well as they should. So we will also extend free provision of a healthy breakfast to all primary school pupils as well. Breakfast and lunch for every pupil every school day.
So breakfast as well, inevitably. I mean, how could any government be so callous and heartless as to fail to provide a bowl of cereal to every middle-class child in Scotland? Still seems okay for them to go without an evening meal, but breakfast is a crucial matter of social justice, apparently. But tea isn't, nor are weekends.
But another lesson of 2020 is term time isn't enough. Hunger doesn't take a holiday, and so neither can we. Just as we extended free meals through the holidays this year and next, if re-elected, we will extend free school meals through every school holidays. All primary school pupils, all classes, all year round. That is the next step in our battle to stop the Tories forcing more and more of our kids into poverty.
So needless to say, expanding into holidays as well. I'm not sure how that would work. Would it be vouchers? Would you actually have to go to the school to sit and have the meal? Would it just be a payment? I think it would be a payment or some sort of voucher. So it's not really feeding the children. It's just effectively giving a bit more money. But the SNP is dressing it up as famine relief. So they're presenting a picture of themselves heroically feeding Scotland's children while Boris Johnson is intent on starving them. Now, the SNP will have an army of experts, advisors, researchers looking into the issue of child poverty and how to address it. But why have they come up with school meals as the emphasis at the moment? Well, because Marcus Rashford, an English footballer, had a campaign that gained great traction in the media. He's like us was scaled up Greta Thunberg. So they ignore all their advisors and go with the media agenda and say that's their policy. I mean, does that have any credibility? It's just obvious, blatant opportunism. They wouldn't have been doing this if it wasn't for Marcus Rashford. If it was just left to their experts, this wouldn't be what they were doing. This is not an investment in children. This is an investment by the SNP in their own popularity. This is an example of what I call the modern studies mindset in action. Modern studies, the so-called academic subjects, effectively indoctrination, the Scottish children are taught in schools. Now, in the modern studies mindset, there's a big inequality module. The idea is inequality is a bad thing. What can the government do about it? And the pupils learn about various ways. Basically, the government gives things away and gives money to people. And they write essays about which way of giving away money seems to work best, or how they ought to be given even more away. Now, the other side of the story about Scotland's national debt, the UK's national debt, if you spend it on one thing, you can't spend it on another thing. Questions like that, well, they're just not on the syllabus. Not really interested in that. And that's the theme of Scottish politics. I mean, we're at the end, hopefully, towards the tail end of a pandemic. Debt spiralled out of control. Huge danger to the future. Serious economic problems. I mean, if you said to the Scottish government, what's your plan to repay your debt? They would just, that question just wouldn't compute. I mean, that question just doesn't seem even a remotely sensible question, does it? It's so far off the agenda. Yet when I go on Facebook sometimes, to my amusement, sometimes a post comes up from the Scottish government, an advert, saying, do you need debt advice? I mean, really, if I did need debt advice, the last people I would go to would be the Scottish government. But a lot of the Scottish population, they're not seeing beyond this. If you listen to the BBC Radio Scotland phone-in the morning, people are in the modern studies mindset. I mean, the Greens in the Parliament, they go even further. They talk about the right to food. But I don't know how far towards genuine communism the Greens would want to go. But it seems to be they like the idea that basically the government does everything for everyone, provides everything. So on the Greens' vision, I'm hungry, who do I phone, where do I go? Surely it's someone's responsibility to give me some food. I mean, in contrast, the Conservatives should be emphasising family self-sufficiency, helping people to provide for themselves. But the Scottish Conservatives, not a bit of it. They're just a mush. There used to be a joke that if all the political parties in the Scottish Parliament were in a bar, they all ordered their drink, and then it was the turn of the Conservatives. The Conservatives would say, we'll just have half a pint of what the others are having. But that joke's out of date, really. It would now just be, we'll just have exactly the same as all the others. Just thinking about breakfast again. I mean, a bowl of cereal and a bit of milk costs very, very little. Imagine a school providing it. The amount of admin, staffing, waste, it would cost far more. And of course, it's not free. The taxpayers are paying. Or, more likely, the money has been borrowed. So the children who are getting their bowl of cereal will be paying for it themselves in later life. But this is just one thing. There's other things that are on the same thing. The increased nursery care. The SNP brags it's going to cost £1 billion in its first year. And they're keen on more after-school clubs, before-school clubs, holiday clubs, anything apart from kids being with their parents. The Conservatives got exactly the same philosophy. Then we've got the baby box as well. In some ways a nice idea. But does it just seem like the government trying to get a bit too involved in family life? Just say, my local mother care shop has now gone bust. I wonder if that's connected with the baby box. I'm not sure if it is, but, well, in some ways you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. And with the baby box, you sometimes see on the government's Parent Club Facebook page, parents posting pictures of their babies next to the government teddy bear that they're being given. I don't really want photographs of kids with a government teddy bear. I'd rather the teddy bear should come from Auntie Susan or Granny, not from the government. So this free school lunch idea, actually, you might be surprised I'm going to say this, it could be a good idea. It's a family-friendly policy. It could help families in general. We want to support families. It can be a time of financial strain. Parents doing a great service to society, bringing up children, so a bit of extra support like that could be good. Also, we want families to have more children. The Scottish population is in decline. So if the financial burden is lifted somewhat, then that could be a good thing. So the actual policy of free school meals could be valuable, but not for the reason the Scottish National Party think. But here's the real punchline. They're saying this is all about tackling poverty, families in poverty, children in poverty. Right, who are they? What situation are they in? An awful lot of them are in that poverty because they're with single parents, and in particular that would be single mothers. Now, people end up in that situation for a whole variety of reasons. Sometimes that's inevitable. But we want to create a situation where there are less families unable to provide for themselves and more that can provide for themselves. So the burden on the government is reducing and less children are brought up in need. You can't just keep picking up the pieces. We want to promote stable family life. Kids with mum and dad who are married. That's the best recipe for producing stable family life. So there's lots of ways in which we would promote marriage. And the result of that would be less kids in poverty. Is the SNP interested? Not remotely. They're not interested in solving the problem in the longer term. They just want to keep throwing a bit of money in the direction of struggling families. And the long-term plan, well, just keep doing the same thing ad infinitum. Whereas what we want to do is strengthen families, incentivize commitment, produce strong relationships, and tackle a massive cause of poverty. Strong families make for a strong nation. That's a vision. All the SNP have got is a dwindling box of inadequate sticking plasters, and the other parties in the Scottish Parliament, well, they've just got the same box, but they might pick slightly different plasters out in different orders. But if you want to fuel our vision, you need to join the Scottish Family Party via the link below. Thanks for watching.